Alright, welcome to the channel, and today we'll be talking about the Cyan 2 from Holo Audio, and this was provided to me by Kitsune Audio, and they are not asking me to say or do anything other than my honest opinion regarding the Cyan 2 DAC, and I have a lot of thoughts, but TLDR is I think this thing is probably what most people would end up being their end game and being happy and just forgetting about their DAC for a while. So let's dive into build and aesthetics, and then we'll get into the rest of it after that. Build and aesthetics. So build, super solid metal, has this beautiful copper inlay side plates here, and you can see just how thick those things are. This thing is solid. It's very heavy. Like, I would not want this dropped on my foot or head or anything like that. But build, super fantastic actually. Like solid, very well built. A little bit of a fingerprint magnet on the top here and then on the copper sides, but nothing a microfiber cloth can't fix. But yeah, overall build is like top notch. It's definitely solid. I don't see any major issues here. And honestly, because there's no actual buttons or any kind of physical thing to interact with here, this thing's like, it's not going to break. There's nothing that's going to break on it outside of internally if you dropped it or something like that, maybe, potentially. But yeah, no, this thing is great. And then to me, I love the aesthetics. But like that black and copper look is just gorgeous. The other thing I really enjoy with this is that the writing, the white with the black like that, and it has these little white LEDs here that shine through whenever corresponding item is in play or in use. So, and that could be hit or miss. I think aesthetically, this is probably the biggest kind of maybe negative, potentially, depending on your preferences for aesthetics. I personally don't mind it. I think it's kind of cool. And I always got this very Blade Runner kind of aesthetic from the Holo Audio gear, like that copper and black look. Just, I don't know, it screams Blade Runner. And then the way that they do the kanjis on there and that kind of stuff. It just screams Blade Runner to me, and I just love that. I think it's fantastic look. So on the back here, it has your typical inputs, outputs, all that fun stuff. You know, your power, you have your AES and your IS2 and your USB toss link, coaxial, that kind of stuff, and then your XLR and RCAs for your outputs. That will lead right into how this works. There's no actual remote for it. Everything is automatic, so it'll automatically switch to the different settings, and you'll know because it'll light up with the corresponding one. So plugged into 2 amps, one XLR and one RCA, and then having them both playing at the same time. It will play through both amps at the same time, so if you don't want that to happen, you have to turn one of your amps off and then listen to the one you want. So, you know, take that for what it is. Not a big deal for me because I almost never do that, but I mean, depending on your scenario, that might be a problem or is a boon, a benefit, depending on how you look at it. And then the switching between USB and your different inputs is an automatic thing. And I did have some quirks with this as well. And I reached out to Tim from Kitsune Audio, and he explained that as long as one of them is off, it'll automatically switch over to the one that's active. So you can't have both playing at the same time, because if you have both inputs playing at the same time music, I notice it defaults to the USB input, and so just to take that for what it is. I didn't test coax or I2S or AES with this. I only did USB and optical or Toslink. I had USB hooked up to my MacBook, and then I had Toslink with my gaming PC, and it was mostly just defaulted to USB, but I had to, once I turned one of them off, it would default back to the regular one. So it automatically would switch to the one that was active and not on. But then it defaulted, I noticed, to USB if both were on. So something to think about. All right, going into the sound of the Cyan 2, it's a DAC. So, and DACs are really hard to give opinions on or give preferences or how they sound. And usually what happens is you end up over-exaggerating the sounds you're getting out of it, because it's a subtle thing with DACs generally. Like most of your sound swings are going to come from your headphones, your speakers, your amps, that kind of stuff. Whereas the DAC is kind of more of like the brain. It's like it's the brain, the central of the nervous system, I guess you could say, and it's doing all the hard work there. And it does impart like detail, and it can have some warmth to it, or it can have smoothness, or it has certain things like that. And I do believe that there is a difference between DACs. Like there's that meme of, you know, all DACs sound the same. You can generally, or I can generally tell like between like an AKM to a ESS to a Burr Brown to like a Texas Instruments one, which I think is similar to the Burr Browns. You can generally tell it's or to an R2R kind of thing, and it's subtle. But usually, to describe the sounds you get, most people exaggerate those sounds so that when people do finally hear different DACs, they're like, this isn't like a big swing. So I think that's where some of the play comes in, where people get kind of like, they all sound the same, or they become, because of the over exaggeration, I think people expect more from their DAC than what is actually being presented. That being said, I'm a big fan of having a budget, picking that budget, maxing it out for your DAC, putting your DAC in your system, and then forgetting about it, because the DAC, at the end of the day, it will be a thing that is important, and it's very important in your chain, but also you're going to get more bang for your buck from like basically your headphones, your speakers, your amps, that kind of thing. Where I think the Cyan is fantastic, Cyan 2 here, and where I'm really excited about it is it's just that. This is a high-end DAC, like I think it's performing well above its price point, and it's one of those things where I can easily recommend it as a just one and done and forget about it, and this thing will probably last decades for being how good it sounds. And this thing is basically, in my opinion, I have the Spring 3 KTE 3, I believe, and compared to that, this one doesn't have quite as many whiz bangs. Like, it doesn't have like the remote, it doesn't have certain upscale features, it doesn't have certain chips, it doesn't have certain power supplies. There's certain things that it's lacking in comparison, but in my day-to-day use, I mean, I'm almost on the fence about selling my Spring 3 and just getting 2 of these and having these as my set it and forget it and don't worry about my DAC, in my chain kind of thing. Because this thing's performing excellent. And it can scale up with that ultra high HQ player, that kind of thing. It will do that. It does DSD. It does all that fun stuff. For me, I mostly just listen to Qobuz or my FLAC files, and those max out at like 24 bits and I think 192 kilohertz. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm only getting a certain amount of like play out of this, but it works and it sounds really excellent, and I really enjoy it. And yeah, I think for bang for the buck, I think it's like $1,200, and so most of the stuff that this fits, like, I think this beats the Yigi in personal preferences aside. Like, that's my personal preferences. Personal preferences aside, though, I also think it beats the Yigi just because it's the price performance is better, in my opinion, and it's smaller. The form factor, it's just a fantastic thing. So this sits below certain DACs that are like considered top of the line, and I think performs on par, if not better than those. And it's just a great entry, like, or even beyond entry. Like, this is like entry into high end, but also the stop of high end. Like, I don't think you need to go much higher beyond this unless you're really into your chain and you're trying to optimize the crap out of it and you have a budget to like just go nuts. But as far as like your everyday general audio user, this would probably be the in-game DAC for probably like 95% of the population of audiophiles, in my opinion, just because it's a fantastic DAC. It just works, and just plug it in, you set it aside, and it does its job, and you don't think about it, and it just sounds great, and you can focus on the rest of your chain. And it's, I mean, personally, I think it's pretty. I just love that. Like, that's just so gorgeous. But yeah, so that's me goo-goo-guying over this DAC. As far as sound, like, it just has excellent detail retrieval. It has a really lovely, imaging, and there's this, just, like, not smoothness, like, it's not, like, overly smooth. Like, say, some people say the TT2 can be overly smooth. I would say it's a little bit more, like, on par with the TT2, but with more detail, and the imaging is a little more separated a little bit, and it's just excellent. I mean, I like this thing a lot. I don't know if that's coming through or not, but the Cyan 2 is definitely something I'm very intrigued by, and I kind of want one. And if I wasn't trying to save up for some camera gear, I'd probably be purchasing this right now. So, and so once I get my new camera stuff, I'll probably be looking at getting one of these and probably moving some of my other DACs out the window. Not literally out the window, but I'll be selling them probably. So take that for what it is. In my opinion, this is the in-game DAC for most people, and for the price point and everything else, I think this is fantastic, and it's a highly recommended from me. All right, and with that, I think I'll let my rambling and ridiculousness sign off, and I'll catch everyone on the next video. Hopefully it'll be on this Bliss, the Holo Audio Bliss, which was also sent out, and so that will be coming up. And yeah, so catch everyone on the next one, and have a great morning, afternoon, or evening. Cheers.